The story begins on the beautiful streets of Paris as two lovers ride their bikes lovingly, have their portrait taken, and continue to ride until stopping on the Lovelocks Bridge. The two lovers swoon over their time together, coming to what they plan to be a brief end. Lindsay is supposed to go to New York and Jack is supposed to join her there, but Lindsay teasingly asks him if he's told his father he will be quitting, to which Jack with hesitation says that he will, and then assures Lindsay that they will be back together by Valentine's Day, on top of the Empire State Building. After, Lindsay brings out a padlock so they can lock it on the bridge, so their love will be able to last forever. Jack is acting a little bit less enthusiastic than Lindsay. He takes the lock from her, and after he gives her back her pen, the lock starts to slip from his hand. In a rushed attempt to save it, the lock sinks to the bottom of the water, to their shock. Lindsay accuses Jack of doing it on purpose, but Jack counters that it's actually her fault because she grabbed for it. The next time we see Lindsay, she's walking the streets of New York on her way to the office, where she greets her assistant Maggie, who tells her Trent Greer is waiting for her, which surprises Lindsay. She asks Maggie what he is doing in her office, but Maggie simply shrugs it off, seeing as Trent is very charming, as she continues to gush and sell the prospect to Lindsay. Lindsay goes and meets with Trent, and he tells her that he wanted to catch her before she left, because he heard from her assistant that she was leaving for Paris with her daughter. Lindsay teases him until he compliments and surprises her again by telling her that he would really like to take her out. A brief pause before he tells Lindsay that he would also like to buy her magazine. Lindsay agrees to the first one but stutters, unsure of her stance on the second offer. He starts to praise her on her incredible job with her magazine, but that he can help her take her job to the next level. Lindsay isn't really being sold on the idea of selling her company and not being her own boss. Trent tells her that she should simply mull it over while she travels. Both offers, and Lindsay says she will, to both. Before he leaves, he tells her he will be traveling to London and wants to give her a tour. Lindsay thinks that he must really want her magazine, but Trent plays it off cool, implying that the business aspect is definitely not his primary goal. He leaves, and Lindsay relays the contents of their discussions to Maggie. Lindsay is at home, staring at a pretty painting, when her daughter Alexa arrives home early through a lift from an unknown boy. They hug and catch up over the painting. The two talk over dinner as Alexa swoons in a fantasy of love, and Lindsay claims to be a realist. She tells her daughter about Trent Greer's offer, and how she isn't sure she's planning on selling. Alexa asks her why not, and Lindsay says she can't sell her life. Alexa teases her mom over having no such life outside work. The two arrive in Paris, they're both really excited. Upon arrival at the hotel, Alexa meets and locks eyes with a very handsome bellhop, which makes her mother tease her since they only just arrived, but Alexa continues to swoon. Their room is not ready, but Alexa is excited enough by Paris air that she doesn't even see it as a problem. The two take a lovely stroll and visit Hugo, Lindsay's former teacher, soon to be Alexa's. He welcomes warmly an enthusiastic Alexa and catches up with Lindsay, especially on her unfinished painting and her decision to stop painting altogether. The two arrive back to the beautiful suite that is their room, and Lindsay falls asleep. She wakes up and starts searching for her daughter, who is sitting with Jean Paul, the handsome dreamy bellhop. She finds them out in the courtyard after, and Jean Paul leaves immediately. Alexa tells her doting helicopter mother that she must have frightened him away, and Lindsay begins to tell her all the reasons why a handsome man in Paris might not be the right choice, and may ruin Paris for her. She knows because she has been through a similar situation once, but Alexa defends herself, exclaiming she is an adult and her mother should probably soothe herself with wine. Lindsay takes her daughter's advice, but isn't prepared when she sees Jack standing behind the counter. Lindsay was unaware that it was his hotel. Jack is also surprised, and didn't notice either when Hugo called to set it up. He finds out that she is married, now divorced, and has a daughter who is studying art just like she did. Lindsay learns that he has simply been married to his work. Jack tells her she is beautiful when Alexa walks in and they are awkwardly introduced. Lindsay runs away with Alexa. She tells Alexa that they need to move hotels, and Alexa presses her mother until she admits that Jack was from her past, and he promised to follow her, but it didn't happen. Alexa tells her mom with excited enthusiasm how this must be fate, but Lindsay boils it down to Hugo's meddling. Alexa jumps when she spots the Lovelocks, as it's something that represents her romantic fantasy of Paris. The next day, Lindsay wakes up to find Alexa texting Jean Paul, who she now refers to as JP, and she asks Lindsay if he can take her to register at the university. Lindsay decides to agree, even though it wasn't the plan. While she's having breakfast, Jack comes to join her and ask her about her life. He mournfully apologizes to her about the past, and his prior obligations to his father and his business. Lindsay brushes it off like it's nothing, and Jack starts teasing her over the incident on the bridge to break the ice. She tells him they never really believed in it anyway, and he informs her that they will soon cut all the old locks off their bridges. Jean Paul and an excited Alexa visit the university, and Lindsay visits Hugo with Catherine Daltrey, who is staying at Jack's hotel. She confronts Hugo about the hotel being Jack's and his meddling, while the usually eccentric Hugo just tries to paint Miss Catherine. Jack arrives at Lindsay's room doorstep with roses from Trent. She meets up with Catherine, who regrets coming back to Paris, and Lindsay tries to comfort her with her own feelings about the city. Catherine learns that Lindsay, once upon a time, fell in love with Paris. She tells Catherine that maybe her husband would have liked her to be as happy as she once was, but Catherine doesn't believe she could. Jack knocks on Lindsay's door, to her surprise outburst. She apologizes, thinking he was Alexa, who isn't picking up her phone and is going around with one of his workers. Jack decides they can go on a walk to look for them. Jack is excited, but Lindsay fears what this romance might do to Alexa. Jack brings up that he googled Trent Greer, and Lindsay tells him he's trying to buy her magazine, and that is the reason for the gesture. They walk and reminisce, with glowing heart-fluttering smiles. Jack asks about Lindsay's ex, and admits that he has never been committed to more than his hotel. The beautiful sunset streets of Paris glimmer as young couples dance the tango. Alexa and JP are there, having been found by Lindsay and Jack, who knew that JP teaches there on Mondays. After Alexa and JP are made aware of Lindsay's presence, they stop dancing, and Lindsay asks where he learned to tango. Amidst their conversation ending, Jack takes Lindsay to the dance floor despite her protests, and they laugh and have fun. They arrive at the hotel, and waiting for Jack is a very elegant lady named Nicole, who introduces herself as his girlfriend. It's the next morning, and Lindsay and Alexa are talking about their sightseeing plans. Alexa wants to invite Jack, and he overhears. He offers Lindsay a croissant, and tries to explain to her that he and Nicole have only just started seeing each other, and that it's casual. Catherine visits Hugo and talks to him about her husband. He decides to help her on her quest to try and bring a memento back to her. He reveals to her that he also has a lock on the bridge, and they leave together. Lindsay notices bikes outside when she and Alexa arrive at the hotel, where JP asks if he can take them out. Alexa is touched, and although she refuses at first because she has made plans with Lindsay, her mother encourages her to go. Jack enters the room and tells her he left the bikes out there for them. When he tries to take them in, Lindsay suggests they get on the bikes themselves. They ride their bikes through Paris and make a stop where they see art at the gallery. Jack stares into her eyes, and Lindsay asks him about it, and he answers that when he looks at her, he feels like saying 3 words. They continue on until they have to leave. They arrive back at the hotel, where Trent has also just arrived, and he steals Lindsay away as soon as they spot each other. Jack takes Trent to his room, which is awfully tight, and Jack is quite jealous. Lindsay asks a relentless Trent about his stay. He tries to talk to her about taking her out, but receives a phone call, which Lindsay takes as her cue to leave. Hugo and Catherine are unsuccessful in finding Catherine's lock. They are very much enjoying each other's company. They sit at a restaurant and order dessert. Lindsay and Trent are having dinner. Alexa is unable to join them. She does not want to intrude, and has found love very quickly. Trent is being charming, according to Lindsay. For her magazine, she's sure. Trent insists that they shouldn't talk business, making their dinner a date. She tells him she's a little out of practice, and the man promises that he is too. Jack looks fondly at old photos of him and Lindsay together, and even an old painting, when Nicole walks in and finds that Lindsay is more to Jack than just another guest. She remarks after seeing the photos that he looks happy in them. He denies that there's anything serious going on. Nicole asks him to go to Milan with her after she leaves, which she hopes will be soon, but Jack refuses. When she insists, he dodges her to go attend to customers. Lindsay and Trent walk back into the hotel, and Jack welcomes them heartily, asking how it was. And after them stroll in Alexa and JP, Lindsay introduces JP and Alexa, who gush about their amazing day, before asking Ellen and Trent about their time, which Lindsay speaks of highly as Jack listens behind them. Nicole walks up from the stairs as a jealous Jack introduces her as also amazing. The gang is complete when Hugo walks in with Catherine Daltrey, whom he refers to as exquisite. They feel a little bit sad about the locks they will be cutting off from the bridges in Paris. Alexa, Lindsay, and Trent are having breakfast while Jack stays listening in on their conversation, as Trent invites himself to Hugo's show. Once he leaves, Jack throws himself on the seat beside them and asks Lindsay to take the croissants to Hugo because of a bet he lost. Lindsay asks Hugo where all his art is, and he replies that the gallery has already taken them. This makes Lindsay question their being here, and he directs her to her incomplete painting. He tells Lindsay it could be her best work, and encourages her to take the brush. She tries to give the completion of the painting to Alexa, but Hugo insists Alexa has her own life to paint, and that she needs to finish hers. Lindsay protests, saying she may not be able to do it, but Hugo scoffs at this. He tells her that, while she is letting herself be the artist, Alexa and he will be putting together the gallery. He leaves a worried Lindsay alone with her unfinished painting. She takes off her jacket and decides to get to work. The show has started, and Hugo charms his guests. Alexa and JP take a stroll through the gallery. JP tells Alexa that, one day, she will be hanging her own work there. Alexa replies that when the semester is over, JP will be able to come visit New York. He eagerly agrees with this plan, saying he can apply to grad school, and the two might have the whole summer to themselves. Catherine arrives, and Hugo leaves his guests to go to her. He shows her the painting he made of her, which brings Catherine to tears. She thanks him for how he captured her, so full of life and everything else. He promises he only painted what he saw. The two stare at each other lovingly before sharing a kiss. Lindsay is admiring a painting when Jack appears, in his boyish teasing way. He interprets the painting as a grilled cheese and a spatula. Lindsay tells him Hugo says it's supposed to be two people in love. They discuss how Lindsay met her plus one, Trent, in a non-romantic style business meeting, and when Jack is asked about Nicole, he says it's in a similar fashion. He asks if Lindsay remembers how they met. Not at art history class, as she remembers, but that they had met before then, when she was painting on the bridge and he pedaled past he. She smiled at him. Something Lindsay tells him she doesn't remember, but he reveals it was the reason he enrolled in the class in the first place. Their conversation is cut short when Alexa tries to share her news about JP coming to visit her in New York. She then reveals the second bit of news, which is that he gave her a lock that she is going to put on the bridge, no matter what. Jack tries to continue the conversation, but is left awkward when Lindsay leaves him due to taking a phone call. He goes to meet Catherine, who asks Jack if he is going to tell Lindsay he is still in love with her. But he answers that he won't, even though Catherine tells him he has a rare opportunity at a second chance. Jack believes there is no point, since she is leaving. Catherine advises him not to bury his feelings. Hugo takes Catherine away, as someone wishes to meet her from her painting. Lindsay joins Jack, telling him Trent has cancelled. The two take a stroll in the evening streets of Paris after Hugo's sold-out show. Jack wishes the same would happen for the hotel, and Lindsay reminds him that he said it did, when he gave Trent that terrible room. They laugh, going on a trip down memory lane. They are led towards the lock bridge. Jack swears to Lindsay he didn't drop the lock on purpose that day, and Lindsay admits that she knows, as she stares deeply into his eyes. Jack berates himself for not making a grand romantic gesture, and getting on a plane to New York. Lindsay says she believes that they could have both done better. They arrive at the hotel, and Jack hands Lindsay a glass. They talk about change, and Lindsay admits that she is afraid of losing control. That she has to say goodbye to Alexa, and she isn't sure she wants to also say goodbye to her business. She wonders, if she lets her business go, what she would have left. Jack, without any hesitation, tells her she'd still have herself. Lindsay now becomes skeptical, telling Jack that he doesn't even know her. He replies that he knows she is the girl on the bridge, with her paint box and big dreams. Lindsay disagrees, saying all that seems to be left of that dream is a magazine about other people's art. Jack suggests that it sounds like she might need to let go, or she'll never get to the other side. He says it's something he knows well. Trent enters the hotel, where he hears the giggling voices of Lindsay and Jack. He follows the voice trail to Lindsay. Jack informs Trent that he has switched him to a suite. Lindsay and Trent then sit and discuss making Lindsay's magazine better, as Jack prepares to attend to them. They negotiate the terms of their agreement. If Lindsay is to sell, Trent will take care of rent, and she emphasizes that he takes on the jobs of all her staff as well. Trent continues to try to reassure her, since the company means so much to her. Lindsay finally decides to sell her business, and Jack congratulates them with drinks. Trent asks Lindsay to celebrate with a dinner at the Eiffel Tower, to Jack's dismay. Lindsay turns him down politely, saying she has a lot to think about, and so she would like to go for a walk. Catherine goes to meet Hugo, who called her. He gives Catherine her lock, which brings her to tears. Lindsay enters her room and sees that Alexa is still awake. Alexa asks her mother for details, starting from her leaving the gallery with Jack. Ellen Say gives in, and with a sigh, she tells Alexa that she and Jack walked, and they talked, and then Trent arrived. Lindsay tells her daughter she decided to sell the hotel. Alexa is surprised, and asks her mother if she is sure about the decision. Lindsay explains that she has really been trying to keep everything the same, her daughter, her business, but she acknowledges that things change, and she has come to accept that it's okay that things grow up. The two share a loving hug, with Alexa telling her mom that she is proud of her. She is very different from the woman living alone in her apartment, and now she is in Paris, with two men in love with her. Lindsay says Alexa is being ridiculous. Lindsay joins Catherine for breakfast, and Catherine shows her the lock that Hugo found. Catherine stares deeply at it in her hands, revealing that she thought she would be sad when she found it, but it was actually the complete opposite. She talks about how it reminds her of what she and her husband James found on the bridge, hope. He was the love of her life, and she is sure that he would want her to find love again. Catherine advises Lindsay that she should find love too. She looks to Trent and asks her if he is truly what she is looking for, or if she's using him to avoid the truth of her heart. Alexa enters joyfully and hugs Catherine. She means to say goodbye. Lindsay and Alexa take one last walk before she is supposed to leave. They have come a long way in the past few days, Lindsay finding a little bit more of her romanticism. It's time for goodbyes. Lindsay admits to liking JP, and Alexa says she loves him. Her mother offers to help her set up, but Alexa refuses Lindsay's mothering, saying that it is time for her to do these things herself. She rushes her mother off so she can say goodbye fully and still meet her flight. and Alexa stays to begin her new life. Lindsay goes to visit Hugo, who has kept a few of his favorite paintings, the one of Catherine and Lindsay's own pieces. Lindsay asks him about the locks and the bridge, to which Hugo replies that people always find a way to show love. They say goodbye to each other. Trent and Jack bid farewell, and then Trent says his goodbye to Lindsay, saying he'll see her in New York. Jack gives Lindsay the old painting that they made together. Jack tries to confess his feelings to Lindsay when Nicole arrives and interrupts. Jack watches as she gets in the car and leaves. Lindsay is back in New York, alone in her apartment, and even goes back to work. Trent arrives, and she tells him she can't work on the magazine anymore, and that she is going to face her fears and go back to being an artist. After looking at Lindsay's Lovelocks bridge painting, Jack calls Nicole and breaks up with her. Then he shows up outside Lindsay's apartment and begs her for another chance. She smiles at him, happy he finally made the grand romantic gesture she'd been waiting for. Lindsay is back in Paris, painting, with Hugo praising her and JP and Alexa inviting her out. Hugo leaves her with her painting as he goes and sees Catherine. Lindsay and Jack ride their bikes, stopping to symbolize their love in the locks and in 3 words, I love you. It took a while, but they finally got to their happily ever after, ending the movie on a loving and passionate kiss from the two beautiful lovers.